Welcome into the Bro Force Squad podcast. We're here to give you another world-famous movie review on the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe classic, Captain Marvel. I don't know why I said classic. I don't think it's a classic. Here to review this movie with me is Jeff Hornacek. As you guys know, we review all of our movies on our 5 Bro Force Squad criteria: acting, cast, story, plot, best scene, impact on pop culture, and rewatchability. Before we get any further, I want to make sure I mention it to everybody. This is going to be a spoilers review, so if you haven't watched it and don't want the movie spoiled for you, definitely pause right now, go watch the movie, and in 2.5 hours, come back and talk to us. So, spoilers, you have been warned. Hornacek, let's get right into acting and cast, because I'm pretty sure we have differing opinions on this.
We do. You said it's not a classic. I don't know if I'd go so far to say classic. That's a bit fucking strong, but I did very much enjoy the movie. And as far as acting and cast go, I won't take everybody from you. But Ben Mendelsohn, I was actually thinking after I saw this, him as Talos, is there anything I've seen Ben Mendelsohn in that I don't like him?
Yeah,
and I don't think there is.
Here's the thing. I don't think I've ever seen him as the number one build guy. He is a fantastic role player. He's your Nick Collison.
And for some reason, him as Talos with all the prosthetics, I think you have to be an even more incredible actor, because you can say what you want, but when they cake all that stuff over your face, it's harder to give a great performance.
You're almost a voice actor at that point.
Sure. And that, it might have even strengthened his performance, because the way his accent works, it played a lot better as Talos. And he added layers to the Talos character, and obviously we'll get into in story and impact what they did with the Skrulls in this. But this was a leader of the Skrulls that I never thought I would see on film, and it worked very well for me as a big fan of the comics and the MCU, and I think that is because of Ben Mendelsohn. And then the last thing I'll say, because I think we both have to at least say something about her, Brie Larson. So famously on this pod, I am a huge Brie Larson fan, and you are not. No. Which is fine. That's why we have the pod, to get our differing opinions, because that's what makes the world go around. And I thought she was very good in this. She wasn't great, but the scenes where she needed to have charisma and humor with other characters on screen, she definitely had it. She delivered. She was not a cookie cutter character like a lot of Marvel characters get that criticism on. And I really liked her and was rooting for her. And in this universe where everything is so extraordinary, and her origin story is, quite out there as well, I thought they did a really good job of grounding her. And Monica Rambeau gets a lot of the credit for that as well. But her character worked for me. Was it like a top 5 MCU character I've ever seen? No. But I think this was an important character in the MCU, and she definitely held her own in the role.
See, as a lead in a movie, I thought she fucking sucked, dude. I didn't like her. I know she was trying to play a fish out of water at times, but like, she was a bird out of the sky, which I don't even know what that means, but it's not
That's
good.
Deep.
Yeah, I didn't.
Let me say what I like,
but I will say that her interactions with other characters, especially her chemistry with Sam Jackson, was fantastic, and I look forward to her being in Endgame, because I think she's going to be really good in ensemble cast, where she doesn't have to carry the load. She just has to kind of be there and do her thing. When she was carrying the scene, I thought she wasn't very good. But when she didn't have to carry the scene, I thought she did pretty good.
Yeah, I think one thing I liked about her character that felt very real was when she was in a situation, both with Korvag and Samuel Jackson, it's Nick Fury, where she wasn't comfortable. She used humor as sort of her release, her way to cope with an odd situation or being in a place that she wasn't very comfortable. And
Sure.
To me, that's what I do in real life. And I think that came through. And that's one thing I really liked, that just felt like, okay, this is how real people react when they're uncomfortable. Now, you might not even see it as that. You might just say, like, okay, they're just adding layers and humor to her character, which is certainly another way to look at it. But for me, that's one of the more relatable parts I felt about Carol in the movie.
Yeah. The only other thing I want to talk about, actually 2 things. One, Sam Jackson got to flex his muscles as Nick Fury. We've never seen him really flex his muscles in Nick Fury. He's always been kind of a background character, kind of a puppet master, if you will, in every movie that he's been in. Never really a full-on player. He was a full-on player in this. He got to flex his muscles. This is the Sam Jackson that I love. I thought he did fantastic. top to
And
bottom.
it's been a while, really, since we got him like full-fledged in a movie. So that was a nice,
for sure. And he made everybody around him better.
which he always does.
He always
does. Shares the ball.
Yeah. And the only other thing is, which I know they couldn't do just because of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I would have liked more Phil Coulson. Clark Gregg is fantastic. I would have liked a little more of him, but I understand why they couldn't.
I would have loved like a Melinda May cameo, but I don't even think at this point TV and the MCU are talking, so I guess we'll just move on from that.
They've had problems. All right, story plot. I'll go first. I thought the pacing was really weird to start off with the movie.
Yes.
Again, once they got to Earth, and we talked about this off pod, once they got to Earth, it became a little bit more grounded and it got much better. The idea or the concept of her remembering things and her memories kind of molding together, I really liked. I don't think that they executed it to perfection, but they executed it very well. I enjoyed the music. Just being a 90s kid, it brought me back. I thought they did a really good job of molding a situation with a music that or a soundtrack that's going to match that. Like the scroll twist, if you will. It's not something that I saw coming, which was nice. And you're going to hate this, but I kind of relate it to they took a risk just like they did in Iron Man 3, but this time it really worked instead of only kind of worked in Iron Man 3.
Ugh. Don't ruin Captain Marvel for me by comparing it to Iron Man 3. So I love that this was set in the 90s. I think it just makes so much sense. In terms of continuity, it's so much easier to push this origin story in front of everything we've seen as opposed to trying to wedge it in between the current MCU timeline or just pre-Infinity War. I'll briefly touch on it because you mentioned it. If you're a fan of the comics, which I am, then you'll know that this was a 180 on the Skrull race, which I was very glad they did, making them the refugees and the innocent bystanders.
Huge risk.
Big risk. If you haven't read the comics, then it probably plays straightforward. But I was very, very worried coming into this that we were going to get a secret invasion set up and that some of our favorite heroes have been Skrulls the whole time. Like, yeah. I'm talking like I had trouble sleeping. I was so worried they were going to do that shit, and they didn't. And I'm so glad.
That we know of.
Don't know. They didn't. That's not the Skrulls' intentions.
They didn't disprove it.
Sure. So I was really glad about that. And then the 90s timeline is great. And again, in the beginning, I don't know if this will ring a bell with you, but I got kind of a Rogue One vibe, right? Like we were jumping around a lot early.
100%. I actually was thinking that, like, what the fuck am I watching? And then it slowed down a little bit, which is the exact same thing that we talked about on Rogue One. That first act, they just don't know what the fuck they're doing. It felt
And I normally don't mind exposition, but it was really heavy. Between the Supreme Intelligence basically explaining the plot, Jude Law basically explaining Captain Marvel's role. It's like, hey, show us some of this stuff, man. You don't have to expressly say all of it. But like you said, once they got to Earth, the stakes were clear. Her character's goal was clear. And the story really, really found its footing and the pacing got a lot better. So that's the lasting taste in my mouth. And so for story plot, I really don't have anything but positive things to say about it because they righted the ship pretty quick. And I get for Ryan Fleck and Anna Boden, they probably had to force in a lot of that exposition in the first, fifth of the movie. So you can't really hold that against them.
So a couple things real quick because this is still kind of story plot. Well, actually, I'm going to go back to acting cast. Jude Law, like he literally just showed up. Like he wasn't great,
he was fine,
but he wasn't bad. Like
I've
seen, he wasn't like King Arthur bad, but he wasn't like the talented Mr. Ripley good either.
He wasn't like Jennifer Lawrence in X-Men Apocalypse mailed it in.
No. I'd agree with that. Like he was fine. He literally did not turn the needle either way, which I think is really weird for being such a guy with so much talent.
Both people win, right? He gets the paycheck. Marvel gets to put his name on the poster. Everyone goes home happy.
Next thing. We have to talk about this because it's not going to come up in our best scene, but we have to talk about this. How Nick Fury lost his eye.
I was going to talk about that at Impact.
Fucking stupid, dude. Come on, man.
Not a huge fan of that. And I'll address it a little bit in Impact when I have a couple things that I liked that the MCU did and then a few things that I think are a bit suspect, but that's definitely on that list.
All right.
Just unnecessary.
Anything else with the story plot before I move us along?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Best scene. What do you got?
So I have two here. One,
You want
I
to
just
sandwich it? You go one, I'll go one, you go your second?
That sounds perfect.
All right.
So the at the scene at the very end, once Captain Marvel discovers her powers, you knew there was going to be a really cool scene where she gets to kind of test him out and flex her muscle. And playing Just a Girl by No Doubt felt like the perfect embodiment of like what this character means to people in terms of representation. And then also her just sort of realization that I'm the biggest badass probably in the MCU. So that scene where she just kicks the shit out of Star Force, I thought was awesome, and to get to hear No Doubt in a movie again, something you typically don't expect when you go to the theater. So just another reason why it was cool that this was set in the 90s, and I thought worked really well. It was just really fun.
See, that was another thing that like I talked about I was alluding to earlier, like the fact that the every song that they picked for this movie fit that scene perfectly. And the
Yeah.
scene that you just talked about embodies that statement more than any other one. It was fantastic.
How funny was it? This is just an aside. The scene where Talos and the Skrulls are loading up that black box footage, like being so annoyed at how long it takes to load. I was like, dude, this used to be our life.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
She's like, "What's it doing? It's loading." Like,
And Talos is like, ugh. Christ.
My favorite scene, I guess I don't know if it's the best scene, but my favorite scene was when Nick Fury and Captain Marvel meet in that bar, and they're basically proving to each other who they are. That it was a little bit of exposition, but their dynamic and their chemistry, like you get now why she gives him the pager at the end and why he still has that pager in Infinity War. Why he hasn't used it, we can get into that later, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But like that's when they developed their bond together. And I really, really, really enjoyed that scene. I thought it was a fantastic scene.
It was weird because it was like a building block in their relationship, but also it already felt earned somehow. I was like, these two would
Yeah.
already be at this point, just kind of this inherent trust of one another, even though they don't know each other that well. And knowing that it's a Nick Fury that is not even jaded in the MCU, like he's almost not believing that his job even matters because he's never seen anything supernatural. It was an even cooler way to sort of introduce him to basically what the MCU is going to be. Um, all right, my other scene, which I think was the comparison I made to you off pod, was the Hawkeye farmhouse scene from Age of
Yes.
Ultron. In terms of a nice, all right, let's take our breath before the third act of this movie. Let's slow down. Things are going a bit too fast. And that was the scene with Talos and the other Skrulls at Monica Rambeau's house, where basically he explains, hey, we're actually refugees. Like, I know the Kree have led you to believe we're some vicious army of warriors that want to infiltrate your society, but we're actually pacifists that just want to go home and not be fucking killed. To me, that scene was very necessary, worked very well, and also had some really, really nice natural humor in it that Ben Mendelsohn supplied in a role where I did not think we were going to get any of that from Talos, based on what I knew from the comics and just roles he's played previously. So to me, that was the great, okay, let's take a breath, let's let everybody flex their legs and act. And more importantly, I think helps as much as you can ground a movie like this, or at least the character's stakes in a little bit of reality, or
It
make you
makes them
feel like,
relatable a little bit.
yeah, you're like spaceships are blowing up, but also these are kind of real people, which is such a huge key and something Marvel traditionally does so well.
Couldn't agree more. All right, let's go into the probably the most controversial category that we've got tonight, impact on pop culture. I'll go first because I think you completely disagree. For me, I mean, yeah, it's another Marvel movie. I think it's kind of self-explanatory. It's another movie in a long list of movies that all interconnect, and it's pretty clear that they all interconnect. And obviously, if you've seen Infinity War, you know this is going to connect to Endgame, and this is going to play a huge part in Endgame, as well as that mid-credit scene, which we'll get into rewatchability, but I'll rewatch that shit more than the fucking movie itself.
I've already
That
watched
has
it
me
5 times on YouTube.
Yeah, that shit has me so jacked up. But as far as the movie, like, it was okay. It was fine. It did its job, and let's move on. It's getting us. It's kind of like Ant-Man and the Wasp. It is getting us to Endgame. It's getting us to that last point where we've been building for the last 10, 12 years. Past that, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's fine. It's just another blockbuster summer movie.
Yeah, the only reason I would disagree there is this is the first female-led Marvel movie, and I think representation, especially like the current climate in Hollywood, is really, really important. and the message that it sends, and everything Feige has indicated about future films. I think it plays a big role there. Um, a couple things I didn't like. Let's just talk impact within the MCU. The Tesseract being involved.
I'm so fucking over the Tesseract.
Totally unnecessary,
God
right?
damn it. Like, I just want the power to be like a fucking power. It doesn't matter. If you want to make it another stone, fine.
But it doesn't even.
But
I
it
get
doesn't
for her
need to.
for the point of her origin, it kind of makes sense. But Marvel having it, I don't know. For me, like, and I consider myself pretty well versed in the MCU. Like, I definitely don't know as much as a lot of people, but the casual movie fan, like, I can get the deep cuts, like Project Pegasus and the Hanger from Avengers. I'm right there with you on all that. But I was like, how the fuck is the Tesseract here if Howard Stark fished it out of the ocean? And it makes sense. Like, I'm not sitting here and calling it a plot hole, but it takes a little bit of stretching. And to me, it was just unnecessary. Something the movie did not need. And I get that they're trying to do a lot of winks and nods. Like, we know they're all connected, but at that point, it's like we're kind of creating problems for ourselves.
Here's
so I
what
didn't like that.
Understand. So they have Infinity Stone and Captain Marvel, but yet literally Black Panther comes out and we're like, we haven't seen a stone. We want the Soul Stone to be in Wakanda, and they don't do it.
Right.
Like, what the fuck are we doing here, guys?
Yeah, there's some issues with that for sure. The other thing I don't like, and I know you really don't like this, and I hated it when it happened. I've cooled on it a little bit since, but I still don't like it. You mentioned earlier the way Fury loses his eye.
I'm fucking no.
But let's not make a gag of it, Marvel.
No.
All right, especially knowing his history in the comics with the Howling Commandos and World War II and losing it. I kind of took offense to that.
I did,
and I kept so much to where I kept thinking like, okay, this is a red herring, right? Like,
it's got to be
in Hot Tub Time Machine, how you keep thinking Crispin Glover's gonna lose his arm, but he doesn't, because they know he doesn't have his arm in the future. I kept thinking it was that, but it wasn't that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm fine with the cat being this monster and the cat eats the Tesseract and blah 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 and all that. Like, whatever, that's fine. But it's an insult to the character. It's an insult to all of us that read the comics and have devoted our lives to and time to reading those and getting to know these characters inside and out. It's kind of a like, hey, shit on your face. We're just gonna make a fucking cat scratch him. Come on.
And I get that it was a flurkin, but it just felt unnecessary.
No.
I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but not something I really liked. The other thing, though, and this is a positive.
Very disappointed.
Which is worse, right? When your parents say that to you, like, can you just fucking be mad?
Don't I want you to be mad. Don't be disappointed.
Scream at me, ground me. Come on. Last thing I'll say for impact, and this is a bigger impact in terms of the movie industry. De-aging technology, it's there, dude.
It
is disgusting. It is where we need it to be, bro. And like, we're ready to go.
Sam Jackson, he looked almost better than he did in fucking Pulp Fiction.
Right? The possibilities are endless. It's endless now, and I'm so excited. When I first saw it in Tron Legacy, I was like, I mean, this is fucking badass, but Jeff Bridges looks like he's Botoxed the fuck out of his face. When I saw it in this movie, I was like, dude, I'm trying to find an imperfection here, and I can't do it.
Yeah.
It's incredible where that's at. And I don't know the expense of it, but this is at least the third time Marvel's done it. I know they did it in
Ant-Man.
They did it in Civil War, of course, with the barf technology. And now I believe this is just the third time. I could be wrong. Or maybe I think they did it with Peggy Carter. I guess they aged Peggy or Haley Atwell up in Civil War. Yeah. But either way, this technology is where it needs to be, and the possibilities across any movie are endless and kind of have my mind spinning. So that's the last thing I wanted to leave impact with is if you're another movie studio and you see this and you had reservations about whether this will play and work with an audience,
it works.
Worry no more, because it definitely fucking works, dude. I was amazed.
All right, Horns, the big elephant in the room, rewatchability. Are you going to see this in theaters again? Are you going to wait for it to come out on FX? Where are you at with this?
I love how default is FX, because, of course, FX. So I have to be honest, and no one tell AMC, but I went to go see Alita Battle Angel this past week with my mom, and we got to the theater way early, just kind of on accident, but we had like 30 minutes till our movie started. I snuck back into this with my mom. We stole some 3D glasses and we watched like the first 20 minutes of it in 3D. And I was like, dude, I want to watch this again in 3D because it looked awesome, especially that scene on the planet where Star Force launches that first attack. So I think I might actually rewatch this in the next couple of days in 3D. If not, then when it comes on FX, I'll definitely give it at least the till commercial respect that I give Doctor Strange and even Iron Man 3 and like Thor: The Dark World when they're on there.
So first off, Hornacek, we don't steal, we strategically acquire on this podcast.
I stand corrected.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm never going to watch this because I'm a sick fuck and I've watched Thor: The Dark World front to back without paying like 3 times. So, yeah. I mean, it's fine. I'll probably give it to the next commercial if it's ever on TV. And for sure, I'm actually getting ready we're about a month and a half out, right, before Endgame as of recording this. So it's about time for me to start my MCU go around where before
I love how you do that.
Yeah, before any big MCU movie comes out. It used to be any MCU movie, but there's just too fucking many of them. I would watch every MCU movie, usually in chronological order. Obviously, that means that we have to start with Captain America: First Avenger. So I'll definitely put this in. Probably actually gonna be starting here in the next week or two to go through and lead up to Endgame. But other than that, I'm not going to see it again in theaters. The movie was just kind of meh for me. It had its moments, but it's better than Thor: The Dark World, and there's a lot of other MCU movies I would rather watch than this.
Would you put it above or below like Doctor Strange?
I actually really like Doctor Strange, so I would put it below Doctor Strange. I'd probably go... This is the high of the low. Like if you have 3 categories, you have your good Marvel movies, your middle Marvel movies, and your low bad Marvel movies. This is the best bad Marvel movie or the worst middle Marvel movie.
That's fair. I liked it more than you. I'd probably put it like middle of the middle, but yeah, I don't think we're too far off. Like, I don't think you hated it, and I don't think I absolutely loved it. Yeah, but I would recommend, especially if you like superhero movies, I think you should go see it because I don't think it's one that you'll leave like angry.
Yeah, and going again, kind of what you said on Impacts, as far as like what it's done in cinema, and as far as being the first female-led Marvel movie. If I'm going for a superhero movie that is female-led, I'm definitely watching Wonder Woman before this. But this definitely checks the box as far as that. I mean, regardless of my personal feelings of Brie Larson, she did fine. She did great. The writing was fine. I didn't like the movie as a whole. And it has nothing to do with female or the writing or this or that. Definitely. It's just a combination of everything. It didn't move the needle for me. It just didn't tick on my radar and resonate with me as it did with you or anybody else. Definitely worth a watch. I'm glad that I did watch it. And like I said, I'll definitely give it to the next commercial, maybe through a commercial to the next one, which is a high honor on this pod.
It is. Our time is valuable, man. All right.
All right. Any last thoughts on Captain Marvel?
Wish that the Flurgan was played by a dog instead of a cat, just because I'm a dog guy. But it's the world that we live in. If you're a cat person out there, I just don't get it, man.
We have been the Bro Force Squad.
You're disgusting. You're an animal. You're a pig.
I'm disgusting. We have been the
Bro. Are you Jude Law now?
Maybe. The Bro Force Squad podcast. You guys can check us out on our website, www.broforcesquad.com. That's only one .com, not 2.
What would happen if you type 2 though?
Probably like a Google search error would come up. But if you Googled Bro Force Squad podcast, you guys will find us there as well. So just in case you mess up, it'll be fine. Google's got our back. Hit that subscribe button on iTunes and on YouTube. Go ahead and give us a like on Facebook. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at BroForceSquad. Till next time, I'm the mad scientist for the mayor himself. We will catch you guys back in the 90s.
Why would I turn into a filing cabinet?
That might be the best fucking line.
Do you think they actually can turn into a filing cabinet?
Sure, they can. They're shapeshifters. They can turn into whatever they want. They can turn into your fucking mom's dildo if you want to.
The one thing I didn't get is sometimes they can do the voice,